To the July meeting of the Human Rights Commission. I'm Kyle Bessie, I'm chair of the commission, and I'm just going to have everybody introduce themselves, including you all who have joined us today. And then we're going to approve the agenda in the minutes and get to work, so I'll go ahead and start. Next item on the agenda, we have guests from VOZ to present to us on the Workers' Rights Education Project. So I believe is it Romeo and Andrea?
Yeah, we're four of us and we're...
Oh, come on up, come on up. Make yourself comfortable. The four of you would just introduce yourselves for the record before getting started, that would be great, and then the floor is yours.
Good. I'm Romeo Sosa, I'm the executive director of
I'm Peter Parks, I'm on the executive committee of VOZ.
Martín Covarrubias, soy jornalero.
Taylor. And I'm Paul Reed, I'm organizer for VOZ.
Thank you very much.
VOZ. Okay, so four of us, we're gonna do a little part of the presentation. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about like the history about the Worker Center. Everybody knows about the Worker Center, right? Yes. Okay, so basically VOZ works with day laborers in the 6 years ago, or many years ago, that day laborers, they look for work on the streets. Of course, when there is like a lot of people, a group of men or women on the streets, there is going to be tension. And there's two things, like there's a realities and also there's a perception. Like the reality is that there's a lot of human rights, civil rights and labor rights violation, and a lot of hate crimes, a lot of non-payment of wages that they labor suffer. But some of the perception are like they are all drug dealers, they are drunks, they are homeless, and they don't deserve to be here, or they are all illegals, you know. So I think a lot of like those realities, there is a reality that a lot of people, they create a mess, and some of the people, they pee on the streets. But I think something like we can solve is to put a bathroom or garbage can. That's something we can help solve. And also and in the other side, the CEI, it's
Central East Side Industrial.
yeah. Also, they talk about the like, possible solution about how can we deal with the people who are in the streets, you know, and there are complaints like there's like people dealing drugs over there. But in 2006, Tom Potter, that was the mayor at that time, created a group they call SAFE, which is Street Access for Everyone. And I was part of that group to create like a solution about the problems that happen in the street. There are many problems, but one of them is the day laborers. So as a part of the solution, we created in that time that to create a worker center. And everybody proposed that to the city, and they allocate $200,000 to create the first day labor center in the city of Portland. And VOZ was chosen to run the center. And they went through a process, according to the city, they have to make it public, and so they choose VOZ. And also they hired like 2 consultants to go to what will be, because the mayor doesn't want a project that in 2 years it's not gonna function, it's not gonna be good. So because we are connected to the National Day Labor Organizing Network, they follow the best practices that they happen, how they open the worker center around the country, and we follow them. And the mayor hired those people to follow up, like how to open the worker center with a successful project. And so they went through all the process, and in June 16th, we opened the worker center and located in Northeast Everett and MLK. But part of that too, we have to go to neighborhood agreement. We have to a lot of meetings that how we can do what's the best communication to, if there is a crime happen to the worker center all around there. And so we signed up that agreement, and that's when the worker center, or the worker center reopened in June 16th, 2009. It's 5 years.
So I'm going to bring you up to date on the campaign that we're currently in and why we're here today to bring back your support. Because we have now been open as a worker center for 5 years, and it was a 5-year lease that the PDC gave us on that property that it's sitting on. And we went to the PDC over a year ago, I think a year and a half ago or so, and inquired about extending the lease, and we were told that they were not interested in extending the lease, that they were not interested in holding the property any longer. And so we started conversations with the PDC as well as with the former mayor's office about what the options might be. We discussed, they talked about maybe selling it to us. We don't have enough money to buy it, so we finally, and we started looking around for other options for locations to move the center if it were not allowed to be on the property longer, and all the way around that area. Again, Romeo mentions best practices. One of the best practices is to not to have a worker center very far from the street corners where day laborers habitually gather, because otherwise the day laborers won't go there and the employers won't go there. So we need to be in that general area, and that's the only city-owned property that's available apparently for us in that general area. There's quite a few private properties, but they're quite expensive. People are investing in those as the area is developed. So we made a decision to ask the city to turn over ownership of the property to VOZ. This is also because part of this is to allow it to be a permanent home, a permanent arrangement. So we do kind of a 5-year test, we shall say. And now I think we've passed the test, and it's time to make this a permanent arrangement that's become a part of the community. Also, in order to improve the property, because those 5 years we've had temporary structures. Those who've driven by know that there's a construction trailer and a temporary room there with no foundation. We have, by a quirk of luck, we got running water, but we don't have any sewer facilities. So we have porta potties for 5 years. It's not a permanent situation. And so we've been approaching foundations to do a capital campaign to build the permanent structures, and they've told us that they will not think, they would like to give us money for that, but not if the property's not in our name. So once the property's in our name, come back and see us and we'll talk. So we really realized that having the title of this property was really the key to moving forward in a lot of directions, in terms of constructing a better looking and more functional facility, in terms of fitting into the community more as the community develops in that central east side area, in terms of and also sustaining the worker center for the long term. And so we have met with the mayor, we have met with all city commissioners. The commissioners have all said they support us completely. The mayor has said words of support, but he's not committed to a specific course of action. So we have been working for months now on a business plan and a conceptual design for the worker center. The conceptual design is now complete. The business plan will be complete in the next few days. And we've been in conversations with the mayor over the last several months in addition to our meeting with him. And the last thing he's told us was the end of June, that he was going to make a decision by the end of July. So we are now in the 10th of July, and we're bringing this to you to ask your support to push this over the final foot of the race. We have been working very hard. We've built a lot of community support. We have support from unions, faith communities, employers who use the center, business people, a lot of community organizations are on board, and we've had folks writing letters to the mayor, signing petitions. So we think that we're doing what we can to bring this and help convince the mayor that this is the right thing to do. And we'd like to get your support to put this up in the finish line.
So Martin's going to talk a little bit about the benefits to use the workers.
Pues aquí los encargados pues ahí del centro jornalero me invitaron pues a venir a esta reunión
I was invited to this meeting,
y pues yo me doy cuenta pues ahí por ellos que del problema pues que tenemos ahorita de que se cumplió pues el contrato que tenía la ciudad ahí con la organización de VOZ.
so I've realized the situation that the Senate Worker Center is in, that the contract has now expired.
Y entonces pues todos estamos a la vez preocupados porque pues pensamos que irá a pasar pues con el centro si toda la gente nos vamos a regresar a la calle de nuevo.
And so we're all kind of concerned about the situation. What's going to happen if the Worker Center cannot continue? Will we all have to go back to the streets?
Ya que ahí en el centro pues es donde yo he trabajado pues la mayor parte del tiempo.
Well, the Worker Center is where I found work most of the time.
He conocido pues patrones y patronas así en casas que he ido a hacerles que la yarda, que diferentes trabajos y año con año pues y me he sentido a gusto ahí en el centro ya que pues ahí nos vemos como una familia.
I found employers who have hired me to help them in their homes, in their yards, and we're very pleased to do that. And also, those who use the center feel like a family.
Tenemos ahí pues un lugar para protegernos pues del frío cuando la nieve en el invierno.
We have a place to protect ourselves from the cold in the wintertime.
Tenemos ahí baños
We have some bathrooms.
y personas pues que van ahí a ayudarnos, a enseñarnos a hablar en inglés
We have people that come teach us English
y algunos trabajos de pintura, de arte, de diferentes cosas.
and different trainings in painting and art and different things.
Los viernes y los martes van unos abogados también que voluntariamente ayudan a la gente cuando no les quieren pagar los patrones.
On Tuesdays and Fridays, lawyers go to the center to help folks to recover stolen wages.
Ahí en el centro jornalero, por lo regular, yo pienso que han de ir como unos 70, 80 personas diarios.
I'd say in the Worker Center, there's about 70 to 80 people coming through every day.
Tenemos un comité formado con nosotros mismos ahí
We have our own committee that we formed there
para mantener el lugar pues más o menos limpio y que no haya pues cosas pues fuera de la ley como vender droga o vender cosas robadas.
and that helps us to keep the place clean and orderly and avoids getting into problems of drugs or other things that might be against the law.
Pues yo me he sentido pues a gusto y todos mis compañeros bien ahí protegidos.
And I felt good there, and my companions there all felt well protected.
Esto.
That's good enough.
And I think I just want to complete that. Since we opened the Worker Center, we have sent 16,000 people to work, and we have trained about 50 people for the skill training to integrate to the US workforce. And like you mentioned, we have English classes, art classes. I think one of the biggest things that benefit the Worker Center that they interact with the rest of the community, with the neighbor. Some of them, they don't even know it's a day labor, so it's an opportunity to interact with them and to wait for them. So that was a good thing. And also, I think it's more secure in the side of day laborers and also in the side of employers too. They feel more comfortable to go to the Worker Center. And right now, there's like a lot of employers, they repeatedly come to the Worker Center, and it's gonna be hard for us if we're gonna move somewhere else. So I think it's gonna be like take time to do the transition. And I'm gonna turn to Peter Parks.
I just want to say, this is not what I was supposed to talk about, but I want to talk just briefly about the wage theft issue. And that is that at the Day Labor Center, when an employer comes the staff there take down the name and the address of the employer so they can track the person if there's going to be any problems. But there have been very few problems with employers coming to the center. Actually, and they've recovered a lot of money in wage theft, but it's mostly from people at the corners. It's not the workers who come to the center. So just that's another, it's a real benefit of the way the jobs are given out at the center. So I'm supposed to talk about the asks, and we have 3 asks that we are presenting to the city. We've talked to all the commissioners and the mayor, so they all know what these asks are. And these are, 1, change in ownership of the property, it's already been mentioned, of the Day Labor Center, the property that's on, to make capital improvements possible. So if we have ownership of the property, then we can look for money from grants and private donations to actually do improvements on the property, including bringing the VOZ office, which is now in St. Francis Church, over to the same location, and it will make a much better operation there. Secondly, we want a permanent line item in the city of Portland's budget for the MLK Worker Center. We've been having to apply every year and go through a whole process, and it's been a separate thing. It's not a line item. Third, we need technical assistance from the PDC and the city to navigate the codes, zoning requirements, permits, and that kind of thing for the capital construction campaign that we want to do as soon as we get the land settled. And there is a possibility that we could get a long-term lease. There would have to be a pretty long-term lease that would allow us to do improvements. But it would be, the easiest thing in our view would be to have the land deeded over to us. We've been paying $1 a year for the lease so far. So with this body, with the Human Rights Commission, we would ask that you consider endorsing the work of VOZ and actively support our campaign to give the Day Labor Center a permanent home. So we've been asking other organizations to support by, writing an endorsement and giving it to the mayor, and that's the primary place that we would see that support going. But if we can get support from this commission, support that we can use publicly, saying that the Human Rights Commission is in support of us, and also a direct letter to the mayor asking us that he support us and work towards a permanent solution. So those are our asks.
Does anyone have any questions for the panel?
I have a couple of questions. One is, do you have a list of other supporters of the campaign? Is it on your website or something we could access?
No, it's we have individual organizations and units. So
And coalitions.
in coalitions, yeah.
So what we could have to.
We have to
send a
work
list.
that together, because we still, like everywhere, it's not really.
I'm gathering all that.
Oh, we could do that.
My other question is around the ask for the change in ownership. Could you help us understand what the city's objections to changing ownership of the property is? Is it financial? Is it legal? What hurdles are they telling you are in the way of their ability to do that?
Well, what we've been told is financial. That the city has no money and the property has a value, and so they would have to sell it for at least its value.
Right, so they would lose out on the ability to sell that
Right.
property off as surplus land that they're not using for something
Right.
else.
And our response to that is that we consider the city to be a partner in this all the way along, and we're willing to go out and find the money to build better structures that they can put in that piece, which is the land that they already have, as their part of the park.
Except the city would no longer own it, so they would, do you know what the value of the property is?
Officially, it says $350,000. That's what it says on the books or whatever on their website.
So if you could remove that hurdle, and so you have two problems related to capital improvements. You can't get funding from sources to do capital improvements without the city giving you the property. So the long-term lease idea sounds like it might be possible if you could do a very long-term lease, do improvements that would improve the value of the property, and if the city could retain that, the value of the property, then that might be a solution that would work for both sides.
Right, that's a big if, we don't know.
Yeah.
If
If
the
the
city is
funders
thinking
will-
that they might sell it in 10 years and we wanted a 25-year lease.
Or 50 or 100, and how many years would the funders require
Right.
of a lease to make it seem like it's basically permanent from their point of view?
Do you have that information? If your capital, if your investors would, what their
Yeah, we have, I
lowest number would be?
don't think we've asked.
We didn't consider that until very recently, the possibility of a long-term lease, so we haven't.
We've been in conversations with the PDC,
Yeah.
and the PDC has been talking in those terms, and so now we need to go back to the funders and ask them.
Has there been a precedent for the city doing something like what you're asking?
So we have champion.
No. A president is the, other organizations have done work, a deal with the city before. You know, Bud Clark and the DPI, good example.
What about Commons, you mean?
Hmm.
What about the camp, Dignity Village?
And there,
I don't know how that's on.
yeah, but there have been other cases.
That's a good question, we should look into that.
So what are your next steps then?
Well,
We're hurrying up to finish that business
trying to
plan.
get
Meeting with the
the
mayor.
mayor, and
Oh, yeah.
if the mayor's answer doesn't satisfactory, we may have to look for other property. Look into how we would do that. As has been said, this property is really right where we want it to be. It's finding other property in the area we've already looked, and there doesn't seem to be property available
And
that would satisfy our needs.
The PDC has stated that they don't see the property as being particularly attractive. I mean, great location, but it's small.
Yeah.
And it needs some work to connect the sewer and things, so, to develop it. So they don't see people breaking on the door to make offers to the property right now, I mean, maybe in the future.
When does your lease expire?
It did last,
We're
on
a month
30th.
now with a 6-month promise that they won't do anything without letting us know.
So when is the 6 months contract?
Oh, since we were month to month,
Right.
and written in the lease is a clause that says they will give us 6 months notice.
And when would that, so they haven't given you notice?
They have not given us
No.
notice.
Okay.
So they have no concrete plans for the property right now. They just have decided it's not their strategic interest to hold it.
You mentioned that the next step is a meeting with the mayor. Is this a meeting that's already been set, or are you waiting for him to call you and say?
Waiting for him
"Decided"?
to call.
So you don't have a meeting at this point?
Not this next one.
I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he says, I'll get back to you within a month. That was 2 weeks ago.
And so your timeline is now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'd like to have the business plan ready to present to them when that, we get that meeting, yeah.
Well, we need to move on with the agenda. I would propose that this become an immediate action item that gets moved to the policy committee. And does that sound okay?
If
And
you
then-
have any documents that you have gathered thus far, that would be so helpful for us in looking at what you've already collected, and then we can do a better assessment.
Good.
How soon do you need that?
As soon as you're ready to give it to me.
Because the business plan, like I said, we're still working, in the next few days, we expect to get that done. So we'll get that to you.
I'll work around your schedule.
Okay.
And also I have a sample of letters.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So
Can you
there's- Yeah, I don't have time, but I will give you my contact information.
So if you can give Ashley your contact information, that'd be great. Thank you all very,
Thank you for
very much
listening.
for being here today, and good luck.
Thank you.
You know,